What's good, everybody? In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down this Drake beat that I just recently made. It's more in the style of the HABIBTI album that he just recently dropped, because that one's kind of more R&B focused. And the beat I'm breaking down today is an R&B type beat. So yeah, let's get straight into it. Alright, so the first part of this beat that I worked on was just kind of getting down some chords, getting down, the whole bass of the beat. Didn't do anything too crazy here. This is just a simple 7th chord. D is the root note. If you don't know much music theory, I would suggest coming up here and doing the scale highlighting. Right now I'm in minor natural D. So all of these white spots, those are all the notes that are going to be in key. And basically, to make a minor 7th chord, all you really need to do is start with the root note, skip one note that's in key, place, skip a note that's in key, place, and then there you go. Do that 4 times and you got a minor 7th. And down here was literally I just copied the bass note, brought it down 1 full octave, and called it good there. And for these little sections here, there's really not even that much thought going into these little parts. I just kind of this wasn't even the original thing that I put. I really just try a bunch of different little things and see what I think sounds best. And same with all the little spots over here. I just kind of, tried to figure out what I thought sounded good and where it sounded good at, and I came up with this little chord progression. I'll play it for you guys. So yeah, it's a pretty simple and easy chord progression, I'd say. And I literally just layered the exact same thing onto another pad right here. Same exact chords and everything, but the sound is obviously a little different. And pretty much when you layer sounds like that together, it's really to just kind of like, it gives you more like unique different sounds than you would just using one, but then also on top of that, it also just kind of fills it out. It makes your beat feel more full, it makes the melody feel more full and finished, even if you don't have that much sound going on in it. For this next part, I just wanted to get a good bass in there, and this part is super simple. Literally all I did was I went to the pads that I used, these bottom bass notes here, took these, copy and pasted them where my bass is at, down here, pasted it right into here, and boom, there you go. That's my bass line. I think it just helps to have it the same as your bass notes that you used in your chords, just because it'll just sound like the bass line belongs in that beat, and it'll all sound like they're working together and they're all cohesive and stuff. So yeah, the bass really isn't anything too special. And for this part of the melody, I just got like a little catchy sounding lead. I had this little like lead MIDI saved that I just threw in here. So I didn't technically go in and click all this in. I just had this MIDI already, but there's nothing like super crazy going on about the MIDI though. I think I did change it a little bit. It's not the exact original MIDI that I threw in here. I know this end part, whatever they had at the end here, I didn't really like very much, so I kind of changed the end up a little bit. But for the most part, I really just threw a MIDI in here that I had saved. Sometimes it's super easy to do that if you're just, you feel like you can't really think of what to place or anything, and kind of just gives you some inspiration sometimes. And like how I did, you don't have to keep it exactly the same. I threw one in here just for some inspiration, and then I changed it around to be how I wanted it to be, and then I copied it over here and I pitched it up 5 semitones, which nothing crazy. I literally just took the MIDI, went 1 2 3 4 5, and I think I changed a few of the notes, and some of them I think I just changed like these ones, since these ones are out of key. You see they're on the black, so I just moved them up like that, and that's exactly what I did on this part over here. Alright, and the next thing that I worked on was just finding some good like vocals that I could add in there. It's super common to hear vocals in Drake's beats, especially his R&B ones. Vocals are pretty important for these type of beats, I'd say. They're, more times than not, Drake is going to use vocals. And for this specific one, I just had to pitch it up 1 to make it in key. And then I wanted these vocals to be lower. So I pitched it down a whole octave on top of that to make the vocals lower. And obviously, try to stretch it into time a little bit. And this is how the vocal sounds on its own. So I mean, nothing super crazy going on with the vocals there. And I personally didn't even like one part in it, so I cut a part of the vocals out because I didn't really like it. And then some of the parts I thought were a little bit like, I don't know, it just sounded like off rhythm, off time to me. So I kind of had to move a few around to kind of make it sound like it belonged, like it was normal and on time and all that. And then I just found a few like little vocal riffs or like vocal chops or whatever that I just threw in some of these empty spots where this main vocal loop isn't playing. I didn't even put these ones down an octave. I kept these ones how they were and just kind of, made sure they were in key, and that's it. But over in this section of the beat, I did reverse the vocals, and I moved it a little bit because I thought it was just a little bit off time. As you can see here, I moved it just a little bit to make it a little bit more on time. But I didn't even chop out that one part that I did chop out over here. I just left it because I didn't think it sounded bad with the vocals reversed, really. And then once again, just kind of filling in a little empty spot with this little vocal like chop, little riff that I threw in there. And then I kind of used this vocal as kind of like I kind of used it as like a transition almost at the end of some sections. And yeah, that's really it for the vocals. Super easy. And for the last part of this beat, really is just the drums. Another note that I kind of wanted to throw in there for these beats is like, it's very important, in my opinion at least, and honestly most people's opinions that make beats like this, is like you really got to keep these simple. It can be really easy to just kind of overdo it, or like throw a bunch of sounds in there that sound good, and just kind of overcomplicate things. But especially when you're making like the Drake type stuff, you really want to keep it as simple as you can. Like, you still want it to sound good, but like, do not overcomplicate it. Like, leave some space and leave some room for the artist, on the beat to, get some things off his chest, especially in these R&B ones, because usually Drake is, he's got a lot to say on these type of beats, So let's give a quick listen to the drums, and I'll talk about them a little bit. So super simple. Like I said, literally nothing crazy. I just put most of the snares right where you would put snares usually, and then I just added like two in each little 4-bar section. I just added 2 little extra snare hits, nothing special. For the hi-hats, I went really simple with the hi-hats. Usually what you see with the hi-hats is people, you see if I even can't find the hi-hats, where they at? Right here. Usually people will have the hi-hats going like nonstop all across this whole, whatever. But like I said, for these beats, you want to kind of keep it simple, leave a lot of room. So that's what I did. I just added a few hi-hats here, and then at the end I added a little roll, turned down the velocity as it was going, kind of gives it a little cool effect. And I pretty much just copy and pasted that pattern over on this side too. So super simple with the hats and the snare, or the rim shot, I guess. And then with the kick, I honestly follow the pattern that I took with the hi-hats a lot. Not one to one. I don't copy the exact hi-hat pattern, but for the most part I put my kicks on a lot of the spots where I put my hi-hats, except for a few different sections, you know what I mean? And I have a little kick roll at the end, just like I had a snare roll at the end too. And pretty much just copy and pasted that over, and that's really all for the drum patterns. For some of the drum sauce that I feel like I used on this, I didn't use really too much, but what I like to do with all my hi-hats and snares and claps or whatever, I time shift them right here. If you just click on whatever you want to time shift, go to the little wrench up here, and then you'll find it. It just kind of puts them just barely off time, to a point where it kind of gives it some bounce. Like, it's not even really like it sounds off time. It's just, it kind of helps with the bounce of the beat a little bit when you do that. So that's why I did that. Let's go over to the mixer track. I always pan my hi-hats just a little bit to the left. And if I have any open hats in the beat, I'll pan them a little bit to the right. But for the most part, I didn't really do much on the mixer track. I added a little bit of fresh air on the drum bus, but literally like none. I added 6% mid and high air. Literally, I mean, it's probably barely even makes that much of a difference, but it just adds a little bit of high-end crispiness to it, I guess. Over here, the bass and on the kick, I put a saturation knob to kind of help the kick punch a little bit more. I made sure to keep it low. Yeah, really nothing too crazy on the melody bus. I put a little fresh air on the melody bus too, more than I did on the drum bus, but still not a lot. A little EQ to EQ some of the lows out, just to give room for the kick and the bass and all that low end and stuff. And then for the vocals, I added a little bit of fresh air on the vocals too. But for the vocals, I used the same exact vocal preset for all of them. And it's, it kind of looks like a lot, but it's not a ton. Just a little bit of chorus. You guys can look at the settings and stuff that I used on here, and copy it if you want. Put a little bit of panomatic just to kind of make the vocals go from one side to another in your ear. Like, not a ton. Like, you probably wouldn't really notice it if you were listening, but it just kind of adds a little bit to the beat, EQ a lot out of the one thing that Drake does a lot with his vocals is you got to EQ the highs out of it a lot. I feel like that's pretty typical in a lot of Drake beats, is he EQs the highs out, even the lows. I mean, I did a pretty big EQ there. I took a lot of frequencies out. Fruity delay 3, and by the way, these are all stock plugins too, so I didn't even use anything crazy for these are all stock plugins that I used for the vocals. Take a look at those settings. Fruity flangus, convolver, and then some reverb here. And then I literally did all the same exact settings for all the other little vocal chops and stuff too, so nothing different. And then for the delay, I turned the mix level to 22%. And then, obviously I had to do a little bit of leveling. And I don't really have any special spots that I like the dBs to be hitting for things. I just kind of use my ears and see what I feel like kind of sounds the best. Some people say that, oh, I want my hi-hat at 9 dBs every single time and my snare at 3 dBs, or whatever it is, but I don't really think that it needs to be like that. It does not need to be exactly at 9, or it really just depends on the beat and what kind of beat you're making. For a lot of beats, having a snare hit at 3 dBs might be a little too loud sometimes, but it just also depends on what you like. So whatever you think sounds good to your ears, that's how I would level all my sounds and stuff. But yeah, I really don't do anything super crazy on my mixer track. I literally just have a soft clipper on the master, which, I mean, this beat probably doesn't even really need a soft clipper that much, but I don't even use an 808 or anything. I panned one of the pads that I use to the left and one of them to the right. I think that also helps to fill out frequencies, and it kind of, just makes it sound more like full, like I've been saying. So I usually do that if I use multiple pads. I pan one to the left, one to the right. And really that's really all it is. I mean, these beats are super simple. There's nothing crazy going on with these at all. I mean, for the most part, these are, as easy as you can get. So let's give the final beat a listen through real quick. And that'll do it for today's video. I appreciate you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found something new that you might have not known before, and they'll help you out in the future with making beats. Yeah, I thought the Iceman albums were fire. I know people will always be hating on Drake, but I feel like you can't deny that he's the greatest of all time. So, in my opinion, I think he's the GOAT, and I love making beats for him. If you have any more suggestions for other kinds of beats that I should make or do breakdowns of or anything like that, let me know in the comments, and I'll eventually get to it probably. And I appreciate you guys for watching.